What's happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to a video that I have wanted to do for years now. I never knew quite how to approach the discussion of this particular title, since it's so hard to talk about it while avoiding spoilers. This is something that was actually impossible to do when I used this story as part of a Paradoxical Ramblings episode back in October. But I don't want you to worry, there will be no spoilers in this video, and I finally feel that I'm ready to take on that challenge. So without any further ado, let's dive straight into this review of the one, the only, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Have you ever played a game, read a book, or watched a movie that changed who you are as a person afterwards? Even if just slightly, a work of art that made you step back and take a look at yourself on a deeper level? Because that's what Brothers is to me. I first discovered Brothers through a Steam sale, where it was on sale for just a few dollars. The striking aesthetic and critical acclaim caught my attention immediately. Considering the worst thing I could find in the user reviews was about the game's short runtime, there wasn't much dissuading me from this purchase. Needless to say, I picked up my copy, and downloaded it soon after. I knew from the store page that this would be a story-heavy game, but nothing could have prepared me for the intensity at which that statement would ring true. From the get-go, the game transforms the main menu screen flawlessly into the opening cinematic, where you get your first taste of exactly what the rest of your adventure will entail. Despite the somewhat janky look the graphics may seem to have in the beginning, you'll soon find that they work perfectly for the experience at hand. It's somewhat challenging to describe exactly what I mean without going into spoiler territory, but just think of how appropriate Psychonauts graphics were for the medium in that title. Immediately on, you're introduced to the two main protagonists, two young brothers, hence the name of the game. You have the younger brother who's somewhat mischievous and immature, and the older brother who's more reserved and moral. It's through this dichotomy between the siblings that we find the most meaningful interactions between characters. Despite their differences, the two manage to come together for one common goal. That's not to say that the siblings' relationship is the only worthwhile interaction we're given. Along the journey, we get introduced to a small but significant cast of side characters that help bring life to a vast world. These friends help us trek ever closer to our finish line, and we assist them in return. What makes these interactions so sincere are the consequences of our actions. While such characters are merely driving us from point A to B, we're saving them from dire situations. Mechanically, it may have been the only option for us, but narratively, it's the only option we'd want to take. In one form or another, these beings are suffering, and it's a part of our character's personality to help them in whatever way we can. I'd personally much rather be given a choice that feels natural than be given choices where I'm judged regardless of what I choose. It brings weight to the decisions at hand, and has much more of an impact, regardless of whether they were preordained or not. Brothers takes full advantage of the narrative-driven gameplay by creating very mature scenarios to throw at us, despite the seemingly innocent aesthetic. That is a warning to any parents thinking about buying this game for their young child. This title can get very emotionally heavy at times, which makes it impossible for me to make a blanket statement about how old one should be before going through it. My best advice to parents would be to play through by yourself first, and make your judgment based on what you've experienced versus what you believe your child is mature enough to handle. Though most of the time the game goes easy on your sensibilities, it holds nothing back when it decides to throw a sucker punch into the mix. Some of the images you'll come across will leave a pit in your gut deeper than the Grand Canyon. Children who haven't had to deal with such ferociously unforgiving emotions, or those that are faint-hearted, may want to avoid this game altogether. What you go through will not feel like a mere video game, but rather like you've just witnessed your friends go through eternal suffering firsthand. Unfortunately, I can't go into any more specific details to avoid spoilers, so you're just going to have to take my word on that. The only other complaint that I could possibly muster up for this title is that the controls can sometimes feel perplexing. Considering that the most popular way to control the protagonists is via controller, where each brother moves through one of the two joysticks, it's entirely possible to get all tangled up. It's not really that big of a deal most of the time, though driving them to the opposite sides of one another can feel like you're playing first-person shooters with the mouse inverted. Control quirks and the story aside, however, Brothers is a very solid game. For such striking graphics, it runs very well on most every machine. It even used to run well on my computer back when I was running an NVIDIA 500 series graphics card, so there shouldn't be any reason why it can't run on your rig too. Besides the story, the main format of gameplay is through platforming puzzles, which can range from entire rooms to multi-floored dungeons. The exact breed of puzzle depends on your surroundings at the time, but most are simple enough to figure out after a couple of tries at worst. There's really only a few that I can think of that confuse me for any length of time, and even those couldn't catch me off guard for more than a handful of failures. I think that's one of the most enchanting aspects of Brothers, that despite forcing you to think your way out of whatever situation you find yourself in, the game doesn't want to trap you. It wants you to proceed to the next segments of the narrative, and inch ever closer to the grand finale. As someone who loves puzzles but hates it when games try to outsmart you, this was something I could appreciate greatly. Brothers is one of those things that everyone needs to experience at least once in their lifetime. It's that impactful, and it will change you by the time you make it to the end credits. Forget games, this is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had the pleasure of going through, and it's because of this that I find myself giving Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons a 9.2 out of 10. It is a solid, albeit simple game that's only weakness is its short runtime. The entire journey through the incredible world feels like something out of a fairy tale, and the fact that such a moving story can be told without a real word ever being said is all the more amazing. If I had a recommendation above merely recommending a game, it would be for Brothers. But to avoid confusion with more seals than is actually necessary, let me just say that you have to try it out. Not for me, but for yourself. At the time of this review, you can buy Brothers on PC for $14.99, though it does go on sale a few times a year, so it might be worth waiting depending on how much you're willing to spend on a game with roughly 2.5 hours of playtime. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this formal review, but more importantly, I hope I introduced you to a title that so desperately deserves more attention. Not enough kind words can be said about Brothers, and I hope I was able to do it justice despite trying to avoid any spoilers. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Links for my social media and whatnot are in the description below, and as for the comment question, have you ever found a game that's truly moved you at your very core and left you changed at the end? I've had a few that have moved me to a lesser extent, but none have lived up to the same magnitude that Brothers has. Anyways, that's all the time I've got for today, so until next time, don't die.